What is going on, all of you amazing gamers out there in the world? I am Mega Hamster. Thank you for watching this YouTube video, whether you are a new or returning viewer. Appreciate you stopping by real quick. Today, I wanted to discuss the possible nominees, my predictions for Jeff Keighley's Game Awards event happening in just a few weeks as of this recording. As of this recording, the nominees are going to be officially announced tomorrow, along with all the other categories. The voting will be open. I may have a quick live stream later, like I usually do every year, to kind of put in my votes and do some predictions there. But I wanted to take a look at specifically the historically six nominees for the Game of the Year going into this event. As this is probably going to age horribly, but like just to throw my 2 cents out there. I talked a little bit about it on Discord, a little bit on the YouTube community page, but I've had some revisions since then. I wanted to discuss them all with you and make this really a discussion piece for all these sorts of games and which ones should deserve it. So here's the thing, right? Originally, I had a specific list in mind. I shared it on Discord, and there's one thing that came up after the fact that I didn't realize until after the fact that I heard about. If we go to the FAQ page on this list, I'm curious how, they pick these questions. I don't know if people ask them and then Jeff or the committee will answer them. What's interesting is this final one right here, and this has revised my personal list, where the question is, are DLCs, expansion packs, and remakes, remasters eligible? And the answer says the Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as the newness of the content and its price or value should be taken into consideration. So I'm gonna jump into it with my first pick here. That is riding off of that idea, right? The idea that DLCs, expansions, remakes, remasters can be included. We've had remakes included in previous nominations. The big one that comes to my mind was Resident Evil 4 nominated for Game of the Year in 2023. We've had other ones in the past. I just blanking on it. Let me know in the comments below. Remind me. But this is, going to kind of flip my perspective on one of my picks, and I ended up switching it to this pick here. Not because it's a remake, not because it's a remaster, but because it is probably the most critically acclaimed expansion of the year and a previous Game of the Year nominee, which is why I'm a little polarized on it. But I feel like it's probably a realistic pick, and that is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. I think that's because this has been blowing up online, at least today as this recording, and I guess a little bit of yesterday when it was announced. The fact that they are specifically calling out expansion packs, DLC, all sorts of stuff, as being eligible for all categories, to me, that's almost trying to soften the blow for Shadow of the Erdtree being nominated. We know how much Jeff Keighley loves FromSoft, loves Elden Ring in particular. It won Game of the Year in 2022. And here's the thing. I personally don't think expansions and DLC packs should be nominated for Game of the Year category, because I understand the sentiment, like they explain on the website, where they're saying like all, forms of game content, regardless of format, should be recognized. And I agree. But there are a million other categories where that could apply. To me, having an expansion, and listen, I'm not trying to hit an Elden Ring. I know it is a phenomenal game. Not personally for me. I tried it and didn't really like it, but I understand it is a phenomenal game. I've heard fantastic things about Shadow of the Erdtree. But the issue is that there are a million other categories to throw this in, and I honestly feel like you're kind of demeaning, and honestly, I think it's kind of stealing a spot from another full game. And like, I understand regardless of format that, we should celebrate these things. I completely agree. But when you're taking the spot from another potential contender of like a full release that came out in a year just as a standalone thing, like, it feels weird to me. Let me know in the comments below what side you fall on this with this, because like, of course, fantastic game, I'm sure fantastic expansion, but it just feels weird to include it in the Game of the Year nominees. But I think that's what's happening. I think this is going to get nominated as a Game of the Year contender among the other, assumingly, 5 nominees. So it's going to be very polarizing. It already is online. I've heard great things about it. But like, it's weird to me when, like, for example, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, when that came out, that improved upon the game so much, and it was in like, what was it, in like best improvement, whatever the category was called in the previous year. that could have been nominated for Game of the Year, but they didn't. You know, there's been other expansions that have come out over the years that, I mean, look at Final Fantasy XIV, one of the most critically acclaimed like MMORPGs now. After Realm Reborn originally came out, there's been so many expansions since then. And yeah, they get nominated for like best ongoing game and stuff, but they never become Game of the Year contender when critically, if we're including expansions, it probably should be up there. You know, so it feels weird. It almost feels like they're making an exception specifically for Shadow of the Erdtree, and I get it if it's critically acclaimed enough and the jury votes for it, sure, but it feels off. It feels like a little bit of bias. Personally, as someone who respects the game, hasn't really played much of it, it's a little weird. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I just think it's a little bit of a weird inclusion, but I think that's what's happening here. I think that's what they're going to prepare us for. So we're going to consider that the first nominee in terms of my predictions. Just going to get that one out of the way here, and into some more actual game reveals. This next one, similar from what I've seen in terms of gameplay. Well, everybody thought it was similar in terms of gameplay style to Elden Ring. Not quite. This game kind of came out of nowhere. At least for me, but I know they had some trailers leading up to it. Even Jeff himself has kind of hyped it up. A lot of my picks here are kind of based on Jeff's bias going into it and kind of his line of thinking. I know there's a jury, but like he gets the ultimate sign off on it, right? So he definitely has some sway. And this one for sure is that kind of case where definitely like not like a huge, you know, huge publisher necessarily coming out here, but like at least to like it for a while. There was a period of time where this was like really talked about and is one of the most critically acclaimed games of this year as far as I'm aware. And it seems like a solid pick, and that one is Black Myth Wukong. This was an interesting one because I don't know much about the game. It was partially funded by Sony. Is it published by Sony? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe it is. This feels like a Game Awards shoo-in. You know what I mean? Like, not to demean the quality of this game because I've heard really good things about it. It just to me feels like this is like a almost guaranteed. Just the style of game that it is, being the action kind of action combat game that it is, and just like how flashy it feels like this game was made to be a Game Awards nominee. You know what I mean? I've heard fantastic things about the game, which is awesome. So it definitely deserves that praise. I think it will be up there in the list. I honestly don't have too much to say on it. I guess let me know in the comments below if you've played this one, if you think it should be nominated. It'll definitely be in at least a few categories if it's not in Game of the Year, but I'm going to predict that it's in a Game of the Year nominee. And hey, I mean, if it wins, like, good for it. I think it deserves it. I mean, looks super cool, right? Based on Journey to the West and all that. So it seems like a really cool and unique style of game in terms of kind of that inspiration. So, hey, if it wins, I'm all for it, but I definitely think it's going to be at least recognized in that Game of the Year category. But that is my second pick here. We're gonna go through some of these quickly because I spent a lot of time on the I did spend a lot of time on the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree part. This one's also kind of a shoo-in, although I know this part in a series, if you will, was a little it wasn't received as well as the first part. And I mean, it definitely, I mean, it's, you're either a fan of it or you're not. But this one was kind of like a big new step for this series. I don't know if I should call it a series. I'll just unveil it at this point. It is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So this also feels like a solid, you know what I mean? Like lock for nominees for Game of the Year. Considering Jeff had the privilege of first revealing it back in, what was it, Summer Game Fest 2023, I think it was. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. Yeah, this feels like almost like another shoo-in to have it there. And from what I hear, it kind of deserves it. I know, like I said, the open world nature seemed a bit polarizing to some people. There's certain aspects of the game they necessarily didn't like, but I mean, very high budget coming from Square Enix. Like, this is almost a shoo-in, right? There's not much else to say here. Like, it is the next part of that Final Fantasy VII series they're doing. Final Fantasy VII Remake was nominated, and did it win? I think it won, right? 2020? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. So it seems like it's right. And especially now with PlayStation 5 Pros running this game even better. This is almost like the showpiece game for the technological leap that the PS5 Pro has. You know, I think it's back in the conversation. I think it's relevant in people's minds, and I think it's gonna snag one of those nominees, which, like, I mean, well deserved for sure. Like, this is a huge world full of like amazing characters. I played the original game for the first time earlier this year, and one day would like to catch up and play Rebirth, but this remake first I gotta get to. So would definitely understand this one getting nominated. I think it's almost a lock. So that is my third pick there. Now, this one is the most interesting pick for me, and like, I don't really know how realistic it is, but I want to say it's realistic, right? Every year we almost have like one indie game nominee for Game of the Year. I'm honestly trying to remember last year in 2023 what it was. Did we have one? Remind me in the comments below. I'm blanking on it. 2022 we technically that was Stray, right? That wasn't 2023, I don't think. 2021 was It Takes Two, and that won. 2020 was Hades. That did not win, but that was nominated considering it's such a huge phenomenon. And this game kind of falls on a similar line to Hades, I feel like, where it's just there was a period of time earlier this year, and people still play it, where it was early in the year, but it's still memorable. It just like people got hooked. And that was like all the conversation I saw was about this specific indie game. I have also played it and was hooked for a little while, not as much as other people, but I definitely put my time into it and enjoyed it. And that for my fourth pick is Balatro. Now this one's gonna be tough because like I'm trying to think of indie picks. Like, could Pal World be there? Like, I don't know. If we're counting early access, Hades 2 maybe. Like, but early this year, was it March this year, when Balatro came out? That is all I heard about. And granted, maybe that's my inner circle of like certain like gaming journalists I follow, but like everybody was talking about how addicting this game was. It's on Switch, it is on Steam. I don't know if it's on other platforms yet. They've had a ton of collabs, even high profile ones like Among Us and The Witcher, but also like Vampire Survivors, Dave the Diver. They've had a bunch of different collaborations here with this game, different DLC packs that I haven't tried out yet, but it's such a simple game at nature, but it's so addicting. And this, to me, I mean, this would be crazy, but I believe this is a single developer, and at least when it started out, and this would be like a huge win for this game. Do I think it's going to win? No. But I think if it got a nominee, that'd be pretty hyping. I kind of just want to see it get a nominee, like this small indie game, just massive breakout hit. Let me know in the comments below how realistic you think this pick is. Maybe it's not super realistic. Let me know if there's another indie game that you think could fill that void, because I think we'll get some kind of indie representation. Is Power World technically indie? Did Tencent have a say in that? I don't know. Maybe Hades 2. You know what I mean? Like, there are other options for sure. But to me, this was like a phenomenon earlier this year. And while it hasn't been as consistent lately, it was such a big deal and still sticks out in people's minds. So I think that it definitely has a good shot, and I would like to see it personally get there as a smaller development studio. This next one, we're going back into the more realistic side of things here, in terms of like visual style. I mean, this is also similar to Black Myth Wukong. This to me is like almost a made for the Game Awards, right? And kind of like looking back overall in the year, like I feel like Xbox had some games come out this year. I feel like more so than other years, which is good for them, I guess. This one, though, it wasn't received as well as the first game, but I still think it's like it almost feels like a shoo-in, kind of. It's definitely gonna get nominated for stuff, but I think it could totally be in the Game of the Year nominees. I think it will be. I'm predicting that it will be. And that, for my fifth pick, is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Now, I went back and forth on this. This game was announced, literally 5 years ago. Is that what it was? Game Awards in 2019. It was announced 5 years ago as the follow-up to Hellblade, Senua's Saga. This one definitely being not as huge of a deal as the first game, right? The first game was groundbreaking when it came out. People loved it. And like, still, I've heard this game is quite good. I've also heard some people who say it's more of the same, but visually it looks amazing. It's one of those games in my head that's like, this is a Game Awards nominee. This is a Game Awards game. And it's tough because like, I could also see like between this or Black Myth Wukong getting the nomination, like Black Myth Wukong kind of overshadowing this and getting the nomination instead. But part of me thinks it's still going to get it. Part of me thinks it's still going to find a way to make it into the top 6. This is also one I did not originally think of, but then I kind of went back on it. I could see it happening. You know what I mean? I've heard like people like this game, like generally, but there are also people who think it's more the same, you know? But still like visually very striking, very immersive, and like Jeff Keighley's all about those kinds of games, right? So I honestly think that it's going to make it into those 6 nominees. I could be totally wrong on this, and let me know in the comments if I am. If it's not in the 6 nominees, it's definitely going to be nominated for like best visuals, probably best audio, along with other potential best narrative. I'm sure it's going to be in all sorts of nominations like that. So I think it's going to make it. We'll see, though. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you think I'm wrong about that. But Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, or other way around, I forget what the title is my second to last pick. Now, the last pick is tough. because I was trying to think of something to add a little variety, right? Because there's almost always like one game that comes up in the nominees that are at least different. And usually it's the Nintendo game spot. But, and this is so tough, I was thinking about it and I'm like, well, I don't know. Could it be a Nintendo game or could it be a different game from a different console manufacturer that has the Nintendo vibe that is going to add enough variety to the nominees to make it not like fully realistic picks? And you'll probably get where I'm going with this, but my final pick is Astrobot. Because I was thinking about it. I was really debating, is Echoes of Wisdom going to get nominated for Game of the Year? And if it was the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, no doubt. I love Echoes of Wisdom. I don't know. I originally thought it might, but now I'm second guessing. It is my 7th runner-up for sure. In terms of the next game that I would throw in there, it would be Echoes of Wisdom. But with Astrobot out, right? People say this is like the Mario Galaxy 3, right? I've heard it's phenomenal. I've played maybe the first like 10 minutes of it. Shout out to Chase. He let me play his copy. And like, it just, I think this is gonna be it. I think this is going to be like that one, besides the indie pick, like the quirky pick, right? In terms of the colorful, vibrant, kind of fun, lighthearted pick for Game of the Year. And I mean, it deserves it. Astrobot for sure deserves it with the unique mechanics it has, the little references, the haptics with the PlayStation 5 controller. Like, it totally deserves it. And it's a visual showpiece too, especially with that art style. So I think it totally deserves it, and I think it makes sense that it will be here. It's just, I think pretty much this comes at the cost of Echoes of Wisdom for me, where Echoes of Wisdom to me like wasn't as big of a deal as Astrobot was, right? Astrobot came out, what, just a little bit before Echoes of Wisdom, I believe? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. And I don't know, I think that kind of fills that like Nintendo style niche, right? With that unique art style, that fun vibe. I don't know if Echoes of Wisdom's gonna get it, you know? Echoes of Wisdom will be nominated for other categories for sure, probably puzzle solving, best family game, because that's the Nintendo category, although Astrobot's probably gonna be there too. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens, but I think Astrobot's gonna get it over Echoes of Wisdom, personally. Let me know if you think otherwise in the comments below, but that's gonna do it for this predictions video for the Game Award nominees. Just to recap, my predictions are Shadow of the Erdtree, the Elden Ring expansion, Black Myth Wukong, Balatro, Hellblade 2 Cinema Saga, Astrobot, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I almost forgot about that one. Those are my 6 picks for Game of the Year nominee. Let me know in the comments below what your picks are. If you think mine are bad, let me know. If you think they're great, let me know. What your personal picks are, I definitely am curious to know, because I mean, like Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Dragon Quest HD 2D that just came out, I think that can be included. Echoes of Wisdom, like I said. There's so many that I can't even think of. Helldivers 2, Space Marine 2. Like, there's so many different potential picks that will show up in other categories for sure, but Game of the Year is always a tricky one. What are they going to be the 6 that get nominated? We'll find out very soon as it's recording. Thank you again so much for watching, though. I'll catch you on the next video or live stream. Like I said, I might do like a predictions, or sorry, like a voting kind of for the nominees video or live stream later, and I'll definitely be doing a reaction live to the Game Awards when I can. But that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you again so much for watching. I will catch you all in the next video or live stream, and until then, remember, the Game Awards, don't take it too seriously. It's just an event show held by Jeff Keighley, and it really doesn't mean anything in the long run, but we can still have fun predicting and speculating and having a good time watching it. So I'll see you all later.